You're listening to a Benstown and McVeigh Media Podcast Network production. Run It Again is an inside look at the players, the coaches, and the business of sports with former NFL star and broadcaster Ron Pitts.
And 2 minutes later, I was back in the same Oklahoma drill that I got the concussion from.
And the mastermind behind the greatest show on turf, Coach Mike Martz.
And we want to force him into a vanilla defense and go to work.
Run It Again is a hard-hitting, no BS podcast that connects you directly to the source. This is Run It Again.
Since this feels like, DB bashing day, since we're beating up on me, like you always like to do.
Whoa, Ron. We're like this. Ron. We're like this.
I know. But you made me think of something. You made me think of this kid, Kevin King, number 20 for the Green Bay Packers, cornerback. And he had a play during the NFC Championship game against the Bucs that I think I still have nightmares about not ever having. And if you recall, it was toward the end of the half, and it looked like Brady and the Bucs were just going to kneel it out or maybe throw something short over the middle and attempt a long field goal. And the offense had actually walked off the field, Mike, if you recall.
I do, man.
And he came back on the field late and then threw that ball over the kid's head for a touchdown to Scotty Miller. And I know there's so much more to a play than just one thing and what you see, right? We know that, okay? But I know this, regardless of what I'm told by my coach, 8 seconds left on the clock, and they're hanging around midfield. I'm going to work from the worst case scenario back. The worst thing I can do is give up a bomb for a touchdown. The second worst thing I can probably do is get beat on a long pattern against my coverage. In other words, get beat in the coverage in an area where you can't get beat. All right, but then they take a field goal and have a field goal attempt. So so when I saw that, that just kind of summed up to me where Green Bay was at in that game. And there's so many other factors involved. There's so many other things that go on. Devontae Adams drops a backdoor fade, the decisions on the goal line with Rodgers, and I'm sure you've got your thoughts on that one. There's so many other factors, but that one right there told me, you guys aren't ready to play. And sure enough, the Buccaneers were ready to play, and they're going to the Super Bowl. So,
I knew when that happened. I was sitting next to Julie. I said, Julie, we're going to talk. This will be the first topic with Ron, because right now he'll talk for 2 days about this. It's going to drive him nuts, and rightfully so. They put the little receiver in there, and he looked like a spider monkey. He's such a little skinny guy, but he came rolling off that ball now. It shocked him. He didn't expect that. So, it's here it is, NFC Championship game. You shouldn't be shocked by anything.
Shouldn't be shocked by anything.
Right. Game, and like we used to say, he's asleep at the wheel. He just.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that's just not championship football. But their whole approach to that game was kind of benign. I thought. I thought that they were real tentative in their game plan.
Yeah.
The Bucs just clamped them down. They couldn't get off of them, and they had nowhere to go with the ball a lot. And when that happens, to me, that's why the tailback has got to be such a great answer, because that's the matchup you want. The tailback you got to have a great receiver in your pocket, that can work a linebacker, and that he'll save you in a lot of those situations.
Yeah. Yeah. But the kid, like you said, you can't be surprised by anything. And he was surprised. And I don't know why I was surprised that he was surprised. I still don't understand it. I don't know that they ever showed like an all 22 of what the coverage was. I just saw replays of him chasing the receiver and in chase position, which he should never be in chase position. I can understand contesting a deep ball down the field, and you're in phase and in position to contest it. But he was running trail. I don't understand what was going on everywhere else.
Here's what happened, and the basis of man-to-man coverage is you don't peek, right? You don't peek it when you that receiver comes off the ball. You can't start peeking inside, and I'm sure he felt like the ball was going to hand it off and maybe to his side, and he just wanted to come out and make the tackle.
Yeah.
And for a brief moment there, he peaked, and then it was, uh-oh. And then,
Oh, yeah.
and he couldn't have thrown a better ball, by the way.
Oh, the ball's on the money. And, Brady's numbers weren't great. If we're going to talk quarterback rating, he had like a 73 rating and threw 3 interceptions. Usually, Mike, you don't survive a championship game when your quarterback throws 3 interceptions, no matter what else happens. But he was good when he had to be good, and the ball was on the money when it had to be on the money. And defense, I think you talked about this defense playing better and better and better. And I thought the front four dominated the game.
I thought that was the best defensive performance of the year by anybody. Such a phenomenal offense to shut him down to 200 yards of offense was pretty remarkable. And clamp those receivers, Adams couldn't get off. They tracked him all over the place. He couldn't get free, and he won't. He's comfortable throwing him the ball. He threw the ball out there a couple of times. He had no business doing it, but he's just trying to get him the ball, and he couldn't get him the ball.
Yeah.
He under 50% and under 200 yards for the day. That's just so atypical. 2 picks by him. Rodgers, that was, and a lot of that is just guys just not making plays, and they look stunned to me. I just think that the game is a little more physical and fast than what they expected.
No, that's right. Yeah, the Buccaneers came up there and punched them in the mouth, and that's exactly right. Those 2 little linebackers, Levante David and Devin White, are something else. Devin White looks like the Tasmanian devil.
He does.
He's something else.
He's one of my favorite players in the league right now. I love. He's kind of the prototypical way of playing that position. He really is, regardless of the size and whatnot. He's so physical and fast. When he pulls the trigger, boy, he's there on the ball. Yeah.
And our audience, our viewers, listeners, they may not know Tasmanian devil, that term, but just Google it. It takes you back a little bit, but for guys like me and Mike, we know who that is. So, hey, Leonard Fournette, numbers wise, he had 12 rushes, 55 yards, 1 touchdown. But it felt like he did way more than that. And I know he dropped 1 or 2 swing passes or balls out there, but he had the big runs when he needed the big runs, especially down by the goal line.
Oh, he had some yards after initial contact. That was amazing. Yeah, he dragged 4 or 5 guys another 4 yards on critical downs in there. And that's, when you're talking about attitude and championship football, the difference between that and the corner on the outside there's a difference in attitude and approach to that game completely. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And again, Kevin King got ran over in the goal line on that one. So that was just another part of his day. Chris Godwin. Everyone talks about Mike Evans, but Chris Godwin had 99 yards receiving in the first half. So, we've been talking a lot about one corner, but that entire secondary, they picked on another kid too, I believe number 38. I think it was Williams. They picked on him early as well. So they in their scouting report, they knew who they wanted to go after, and they went after him.
They did. And I think that it looked to me like Green Bay may have been a little predictable in offense, and Tampa Bay had to work on them. And I think that's, on the other side of that, I don't know that they could ever get a feel for Tampa Bay on offense. And so Tampa Bay started moving the ball around and found receivers that maybe were dormant there for a while. All of a sudden they're showing up, and, they're obviously Green Bay is trying to play the numbers on that thing. And when you go against the numbers, it shakes things up a little bit, which is what I've always believed.
Yeah, no, that's right. I thought that the Packers, my concern about the Packers coming into this game, which kind of all season, was their defense. Earlier in the year, Dalvin Cook went in there and rolled up 200 yards rushing on him. And it looked like they'd shored that up a bit, but now they went back to the old Green Bay defense. And I know, Pettin, the defensive coordinator, they're going to be on his head. It looked like he had swam to safety for a second, but now I think he's back out in the shark waters. So what happens now in Green Bay? What happens with Rodgers? What happens with uh, the defensive coordinator? What happens if you're Matt LaFleur? What's going on in his head, do you think?
I'd be more concerned about what's happening with the quarterback's head, Rodgers. But and Matt LaFleur, I don't know how much input he has to any of that. But and even the coaching changes, the inconsistency of intensity of that defense is troublesome to me.
Yeah.
I watched the safeties early in that game, and they had a chance to come up and blow a play up, and they didn't. They just didn't do it.
Yeah.
They just came up and put his head down and missed, and they just didn't fit the run real well at times, and they just looked disjointed. Didn't look like championship football to me.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Bucs safeties were lights out. I mean, that they were coming up and just pounding people. They lost Winfield Jr. Okay. They lost him early in the deal. They lost him before the game, actually. So he couldn't make it. But the other safety, Whitehead, he came in there and he was just cracking guys. He's actually the one who hit Aaron Jones and put him out of the game. And
then he went out, didn't he? Didn't he?
Yeah.
Go out? Yeah.
I mean, he came in. You know, another thing too, Mike, if you watch that team tackle, they all hit low. They hit down, they get down around your pads and thigh pads and knee pads. They're a low strike cut tackle type team. There's no fighting and, doing all that old training camp drill stuff. They get people down the ground.
And they wrap you up. They're downhill, hard tackling, hard nose. Both sides of the ball in that game. That game was the most impressive to me in terms of coaching because they were ready to play. They had their intensity and they're dialed in with game plans on both sides of the ball. I thought it was just a great performance by them.
Yeah, they're right. They're dialed in. Todd Bowles, got to give Todd Bowles credit.
Absolutely.
No matter what, he called a great game plan. And I think some credit probably goes to Byron Leftwich as well, the offensive coordinator. It was I thought it was a good run pass mix all around. Brady executed it, but
it was. I think towards the end there, they did some things to him defensively they should have done earlier. They came off of both edges on Brady and knowing full well that one of them is going to come free, that he's going to have to get the ball out.
I saw that.
And it shook him up. And both those were air balls that he just threw up in the air.
I know.
Had they done that early in the game, who knows how that game, because they never really fixed that.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the game, he was awful.
Yeah, he was. No, he was, Mike. And I could see that happen. I thought, and I'm sure a lot of other people thought, oh, well, if Rodgers just gets the ball back and has a chance, Green Bay's going to go down and punch him out because it looks set up to that. So that, and we'll talk about Brady a little bit more here in a second as we get into the Super Bowl matchup. But let me jump to this, the play in the end zone, down the red zone there with Green Bay. They're down by 8. They've got a 4-down situation looking at them. Rodgers decides not to scramble for what looked like he could have maybe scored or gotten.
I think he could have
very close. I thought he was going to take off, but he doesn't. And after the game, he said something interesting. He said, had I known that there was a field goal possibility here, I think we would have called up a different set of plays, or I maybe would have done something different. How much of that is real and how much of that is just a reaction to a disappointing loss?
Well, I think it's very real. I don't know that was communicated to him. And you have to tell him, this is 2-down territory, or it isn't, I think he felt like he was getting another down at it. And, I think that's really important stuff in critical situations before the game. A quarterback and the play caller or head coach, they've got to kind of have the same train of thought about things.
Yeah.
And I do think that there was a little disconnect there in terms of what they're going to do. And I think it might have been a bit of a knee jerk on the head coach's, on his part in terms of trying to kick the field goal. I don't understand it, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I was saying to some people is that you got to remember now, a 2-point conversion is not a given.
No.
A 2-point conversion is like scoring a second touchdown. That's the way I've always looked at it. It's not an easy play. So
No, it's a very difficult play. It's less
Yeah.
than 50% in terms of success. So,
yeah.
but to me, if you go for it, and you don't get it. You put the defense in the same situation, but you got them down on the 8-yard line now,
Exactly.
and you still have that 2-minute timeout and then 3 timeouts. So you still have 4 ways of stopping the clock. So you get really another run at it with better field position. So really kicking the field goal didn't make any sense.
From that standpoint, it didn't. It did not at all, and then they never, and I knew they weren't going to get the stop. Either way, they had to get a stop, and they never got the stop.
They hadn't really stopped him yet. So
and they didn't stop them all game. See, that's what would have kept me from kicking the field goal, is that we're not stopping Brady right now, even though, like you said, they started to do a couple things and he started to look a little different. But I would have said, like you said, you're backed up. Go ahead, take your shot at him now. This is maybe the chance you're looking for.
You don't get it, then Brady's on the 8-yard line, having to come out of there and grind it up. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But if you stop him, you've got you got the timeouts and that 2-minute deal, and they used during that drive. But you're in great field position, then trying to get down there and get another one.
That's right. That's exactly right. No. So,
I think what he did is a kind of a knee-jerk reaction to it. I feel like, they were down there earlier in the game and kicked a field goal. They had 3 straight incompletions to Adams.
Yeah.
And you could just see their frustration. They get down there and it's just like, we'll get this done kind of thing, just a matter of fact. And, it wasn't. And I think it shook him up. And then to go 0 for 3 on that last series, now you're looking at 4, that's 6 downs that you couldn't get in the end zone.
Yeah.
Maybe he just felt like, I better get 3 points anyway and then hope for the best.
Yeah, he kind of did what I saw Sean McDermott do, is he took his points. But I think you get to a point where you can't take the points anymore. You've got to take the touchdown. Yeah.
Well, I think when you're playing Kansas City, you don't take the points. You try and get chunks because that's the only way you're going to stay in the game. Yeah. That was definitely the wrong thing to do. But he's, by textbook football, head coaching 101, that's what you do. But when you're chasing Kansas City, field goals aren't going to get it done.
Well, let's move on to that game. So, Bucks will play the Chiefs and they'll be at home down in Tampa. That's weird. But that game, I just saw a lot of weapons on the field, and Mahomes, bad toe or no bad toe, concussion or no concussion, he was still Mahomes, still effective. I just saw too much speed, and I saw matchup issues everywhere. And I knew Buffalo's defense wasn't as good as they want to believe they are, because Lamar Jackson bailed them out. And you're not going to get bailed out with a 103-yard interception return for a touchdown every game. No,
and I think the quarterback, for the first time, he looked like his first year. He did not look good at all in this game. And he came out, and because I know what the play is, it's a real simple play. It's an option route to the slot, and against cover 2, you fade the outside receiver and try and stretch him to the sideline and give the option a chance to break out. And he had him dead to rights. He tried to throw it in there and almost got it picked. And then his first 3 or 4 throws were like 4 or 5 feet over the head of the receivers. And he wasn't, the look on his face, I just didn't like it. It's just big. All the other games were big games. This was real big, and it got to him. Because he had the big eyes, as you like to call it.
Have you, how many situations have you been in like that with quarterbacks?
A couple. When I was in Chicago, we had our third quarterback come in the NFC Championship game because the other 2 guys were out. Yeah. And he came in the first series or so. I thought his eyeballs were going to pop out of his head, but he did a marvelous job for us. I was really proud of him, but just wasn't enough. But I've seen it happen occasionally. But usually, to me, and that's the mark of being a great player. Now, hopefully this will never happen to him again. He's been there, he's dealt with it. That should never happen again. That should go down deep inside of him and be a motivation the rest of his life.
Yeah. They showed the pictures of Diggs, Stephon Diggs, after the game, being the only Bill on the field, and he's just standing there watching the Chiefs celebration. And the memes that are circulating, the SpongeBob memes, are absolutely hilarious of this. But okay, so I guess the caption should read, Stephon Diggs will use this for motivation, and he'll remember this every rep he takes in the weight room and every sprint he runs and yada, 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 yada. But you know what? When you're there, you don't know if you're coming back. Yeah. And the quarterback, he had a couple statements yesterday, said, "Oh, we're definitely coming back." I'm like,
doesn't work like that.
Oh, three of the worst words you can say in the NFL. I'll be back. Well, maybe.
No, it doesn't work like that.
No,
because the roster changes about a third every year for every team, and the personality of that team continues to morph, and maybe he gets injured. There's so many factors that you don't know. You just take it day by day, like you've always done, and what the Chiefs have done. They don't assume anything, and there's an assumption there that because they were good this year, they'll be good next year. That just doesn't work like that.
No. So this game unfolds. First of all, I want to talk about the Kansas City defense. And I should have brought this up with Green Bay, and I'll just get to it now so I don't forget it. Green Bay didn't have Shane Bakhtiari, the left tackle. He's been out for a couple of weeks, and they'd moved some people around, and they got by okay during the game with the Rams, and people thought, hey, man, that was Aaron Donald, a great Rams defense, blah, 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 blah. But they were banged up. But this game, I don't think they hit it so well, and I think that left side became a little bit of an issue, as did some of the rest of the offensive line. But now Kansas City has got the same type of issue. They've got their starting two left tackles, Mike, out of this one. Eric Fisher ruptured or tore his Achilles in this last game against Buffalo. So he's gone. He's on IR. Mitch Schwartz is on IR with a back. So now they've got, all of a sudden, they've got some dancing to do to get this offensive line right, especially on the corners.
Well, I've been through that. In our Super Bowl against New England, our right tackle went down 3 weeks before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And he was down and with a real bad knee. And we brought a guy in off the street, Rod Jones, and he never played. And he played in the NFC Championship and played really well.
I remember this. Oh, man. Yeah.
That's why we lost the game, really. I mean,
it
was a simple linebacker blitz on the right side that he's supposed to fan and pick up. He panicked and stepped down to block the end. The guy comes free, hits Kurt, ball goes in the air, and it's a pick six.
I remember that.
We lost the game. It's one of the ways we lost the game. We had three turnovers that they got all their points on. So, I mean, in Rod's defense, he'd been on the street for a long time. And so he's trying to assimilate all this in a matter of 2 weeks. And we didn't have 2 weeks for the Super Bowl, just had one.
Oh, that was because of 9/11.
Yeah. So all that stuff.
Yeah.
it just takes one play of a miscommunication or just not knowing when you get somebody that hasn't been with you for a while, and it's not their fault. They haven't been with you. Those things that should just be automatic, you don't think about and you just do. Yeah. He hesitated. Boom! Here comes the guy and makes the hit. So I can't stress to you how hard that is on an offense, particularly on the left side.
Yeah.
It will affect it.
It will affect the game. Yeah. Well, I was. I don't want to say I was impressed by Kansas City, but I was impressed by Kansas City because every time I watch him, I'm more impressed. Tyreek Hill is a problem. He's been a problem. He's going to be another problem. I don't know how they're going to match up with this. As much as I like the Bucs defense, they're going to have to figure out which world do you want to live in? Do you want to live in the matchup world where we get everybody covered down to the best of our ability? And even that's going to be tough. Or do we want to live in the pressure and stop the run world and keep Mahomes in the pocket? They got to make a choice.
Anytime Emmy gets in a series of zone defenses against Mahomes, it's just like you're playing 7 on 7. He just rips you apart. He just rips it, provided he's got protection. And that's the danger of that, and if you make him make these great throws, I just believe you got to get after him. He just do. And I watched the Buccaneers, their pass rush against Green Bay. The Green Bay offensive line did a phenomenal job at the end of the game there. They really did.
Yeah.
But that front on Green Bay now, on the Bucs, that defensive front, the way they're playing with those linebackers, I think they'll dial some things up. Potentially, Kansas City's not seeing, and they have to do that. They're going to have to be a little creative with it because Kansas City will be creative. But you cannot sit back and respond to what you see. You've got to create on defense in this game. You have to create, knowing full well that by doing that, you may give up a couple of big plays, but ultimately you have a chance of getting turnovers and stopping them. But to sit in a zone and sit back there and hopefully your front four guys will get there, yeah, that bus left a long time ago.
That's a great point, Mike. So in other words, you've got to drop your peanuts and you got to be aggressive.
You do show him stuff that he's not seen before. Show Pelletier come over there, and you can't let Edwards-Helaire get going. And I think what will be hard for Kansas City is the physical and speed part of their game. I think that the strength, of course, of Kansas City offense and really the strength right now of the Bucs, to be honest with you, is the defense.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to be a great matchup to watch. But it'll be a big heavyweight bout. They'll slug that one out, and I want to watch those linebackers from the Bucs.
Yeah,
they're kind of my favorite right now.
That's going to be interesting. Now this is what should have happened. This is the right offense versus the right defense. At least toward the end part of the season. So this will be fun. Kansas City. Let me go back to the receivers and the matchup issues. So about Tyreek Hill. About Kelsey. Their problems. Kelsey leads the team during the regular season in the receiving. McCole Hardman is a smaller version, but no less as quick as Tyreek Hill. That's a matchup problem. If you're the Buccaneers, how do you play this game? Do you play it full on pressure and lock everyone up, or do you play it like you just said? Zones have a tendency to get people in trouble against this team.
I do think that the zone dogs are something that you're going to have to get involved with.
Yeah.
You got to have a deep player. You have to have him deep. And potentially two guys deep, but you cannot let him know what the defense is at the snap.
Yeah.
I just think you have to show him something and do, show an overload, but come the other side kind of a thing. And you can't line up in a defense and just play. It's just not going to work. He'll kill you. So, and they're just too good at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Jones, number 95. Okay. Defensive tackle. He has come on and become a beast. I watched 3 films. I just picked random regular season games from the Chiefs this past season. And he did a swim move on 3 different guys, and it all looked the same. You remember what Jumpy Gathers used to do to guys with the forklift? Yeah, he put him back on skates, back into the quarterback's lap. Well, this guy's doing the same thing, but with the swim move real quick. And I haven't seen anyone stop him yet.
I got to tell you real quick. I'm sorry. I got to tell you this quick story. Chuck Knox. George was our defensive line coach. And one of my first meetings at the Rams in LA, he stopped the meeting. He said, "Now, George, before they pull the plug on me up at the home, can I see just one swim move out of our defensive lineman?" Yeah, coach. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. George come out to practice, do swim move. Then as soon as he walked away, he do what he wanted to do, So, but every time I hear swim move, I just think of that comment. One swim move before they pull the plug on me up at the home,
Man, that's great. Yeah, we're talking about the great Chuck Knox. Rest in peace. He had some one-liners.
Oh, he did.
He had some one-liners.
But the swim move is great, is it occasionally? But boy, you get caught in a swim move, and you get rolled out there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's over. But anyway, so he's playing really well down in there. Frank Clark, He's playing well also. I think he led the team in sacks this past game. And the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. Okay, so they're using him to apply pressure. And it is so effective because he's just being disruptive, Mike. He'll come from the edge. He'll come from like slot blitz inside where he, almost like a what do you call that? A TE stunt, but now he's the E coming inside with the corner or safety blitz. And he's effective and he's tenacious and he's a nasty little guy. So, they've got some, Spagnuolo's got some things going with this defense here.
Well, Spags, I think, will go to school at the end of that Green Bay game. And I do believe that you're going to see some violent rushes off the edge at Brady. And, they're going to try and make him hold the ball until they can get there as much as they can. They'll clamp him down. Yeah. They will definitely clamp him down. But I just think you have to play some lurk in different ways that you've never done before. And, just kind of confuse them a little bit, and try to get to Tom. And I think they can do that. I think it's going to be tough sledding for him.
Yeah. Hey, when you've got a game at home like this, and I don't know, there's been a couple situations like the Rams back in the 70s played a game in the Rose Bowl, but that really wasn't their home. It wasn't the Coliseum, but it still was in LA. And there's been some other instances of games fairly close to a team's natural home site. How do you attack this as the coach for that home team, Mike? Because now I feel like the comfort level changes. And you know how guys, you don't want guys to be too comfortable. You don't want them to be not a distractions increase. There are some good things to it. You get to practice in your own facility. I would believe you're the NFC team. You get your NFC's home city facility, which is yours. So that's probably a good thing. But how do you handle the rest of that stuff?
See, what you just said, I think, is the most important factor of all. That they're at home and they're in their own lockers, their own, during the regular week, they're, even that extra week they get with all the celebration and whatnot, they're still home, and you don't have to pack up the family and ship them off to a hotel someplace for 10 days, like you normally do with the Super Bowl. So I think that is way, way bigger than any other factor. It is so less disjoining or disruptive than anything, because remember, you take everybody and everything in an airplane, you ship them to a hotel and you have the things that you go through for the Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. But you can do all those things without having to go through all that turmoil. And it is a tumultuous couple of days to go through that. The coaches, doing their game planning, they're in their offices and not some hotel. And I just think it's a big advantage, to be honest with you.
Boy, that's interesting, man. That's something now, especially with COVID. Now you're going to take guys down to a hotel, but they really can't do all of that much. They got to be careful where they go, how they do things, and so on and so forth. So that could be another 3 points for the odds makers on this one for the Buccaneers, definitely.
I just think routine is so critical in big games like this. Guys have a routine they like to go through, and being able to keep somewhat of a routine for the Super Bowl, I think, is a big advantage.
Yeah. Coaches. Let's break down the coaches for this one. So we've got really the two old school guys, so to speak. I think they're very similar in a lot of ways. And Arians keeps saying that, I figured out I just let Tom Brady coach now. Well, I mean, he's being a bit, I don't know, shallow with that one. I think there's way more to what he's actually saying, right?
Well, I think he's absolutely dead on what he's saying, because I think in meetings when they look at the tape together as an offense, I would imagine Tom is on the clicker or will interject his thoughts after every play to make sure everybody's on the same page, because he knows it better than the guys that are coaching it. And that revelation didn't take very long for him down there. And however they were doing things, Tom may have had a better way. And at least Arians is smart enough to think, let's listen to what he's got to say. Go ahead, Tom. And I think that's helped them a great deal. I mean, who knows more about what they do than Tom does? Nobody.
Right.
And he sees it. Sees it from a different set of eyes. I think it's a real advantage. I think it's very true, and I think it's a real positive thing. Not many guys can do that. That's what they did at Denver too. And Peyton Manning was there. Peyton Manning had a lot of control over those meetings and installation and what they ran. I mean, he was very, very instrumental in that.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think that got the same type of press that this is getting. That I didn't realize that. Yeah. Huh. What was that not the case, you suspect, up in New England?
I think they have a way of doing things at New England that's tried and true. And I think they have a good young coordinator up there, and they put more time into it than the players do. Obviously, they just do. You grind and grind and grind. I think there was some, in meetings with the coordinator, I'm sure Tom and the coordinator would go over things, but overtly, no, I don't think it was that way at all, because that's just not who Bill, that's not his personality. This is how we do things. This is just, and you won't, we'll make the corrections, but you have input into it, but we'll, and that's how we probably did it. I think it worked pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hate to ask you this because I hate it when people ask me this, but I have to. Who are you picking?
Well, it's hard. I just think Kansas City's just got too much going for them. Offensively, the weapons they have is, it's just ridiculous, from the start, the quarterback, the tight end, the receivers. I mean, the speed there is just ridiculous. And I think also Spags on defense is innovative. He brought some blitzes into the league that the league had never seen before when I was at Detroit. And he's never gotten credit for it, but I mean, he's very, very good. And I'm sure he'll have something special for him. I think the X factor for the Bucs is that defense. If they come into this game with that defense and give Tom a little chance, but I feel uneasy about their Bucs' ability to hold up and protecting Tom.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels to me like, okay, I like the Bucs defense. I like everything they're doing. Great game plan by Todd Bowles, maybe the perfect game plan. And Buccaneers offensively got what they needed. They needed Green Bay not to show up in a lot of areas, and people didn't show up. So I don't know that you're going to get that same kind of love in a Super Bowl. I don't know. And it would take some unusual factors for me to slant the game toward the Buccaneers. I hate going against Tom Brady, though, but I saw some throws late. Like I said, 3 interceptions in a championship game. You usually don't get away with that.
Well, they're late though, too. I mean, they were late in the game, and he'd done damage on them already, and he just kind of. But I think what they did to him when he threw those picks, they were different things he hadn't seen during the game. There was a little bit of panic, but he has some dumb to him too occasionally. He'll come out and try and make something happen that he's got no business doing. He's done that all year.
Well, he threw one. It was to his right. The Bucs were going right to left, and it was like he's trying to throw a corner to Evans. Evans got tangled up, and the safety came over, but it was going to be a 50-50 ball at best. And the safety came over and took the ball. As soon as he let it go, and I saw the safety off the hash, I said, "Well, he's got it."
Well, what happened is that he was trying to hold the safety, from the end zone copy. He was trying to hold him. He just didn't hold him well enough. He got his head over there way too soon, and the safety got the break on it. And I think the key for Kansas City are their safeties against this, and the ability to come downhill on some of those routes.
Yeah, that's right. No, definitely. All right. I think we talked a little bit about Aaron Rodgers there. What do you think he's going to do? What do you think he wants to do?
I'm not sure. If it were me, I'd entertain another team that has, that has some, like what Tom did going to Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
They've got people, to win with on the outside, and, they're just not there at the Green Bay Packers. They're just not, and to have 3, maybe even 4 receivers, a good sound running game and all that stuff. There's got to be somebody out there, let's just say the something happened with the Rams. I mean, would the Rams be a great spot for him or what, right? So Something like that where there's just a good team with a good complement of people that will help
Yeah.
him. He's been the Lone Ranger there for so long. Enough's enough.
Yeah. No, that would be right. Now the question is, can you get the Packers to bite on Jared Goff? You're gonna need some good bait.
Well, yeah, I just throw that out there. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that could use him right now. There's good teams.
Yeah, exactly.
And that have people, to help promote him and, do what he does. So
yeah,
if I'm him, yeah, that's what I would do. I'd get out of Dodge because they haven't shown any kind of inclination to help him at wide receiver.
no. This also showed me this weekend that feels like the AFC is much further along than NFC. Some way.
Yeah, I would, but they have been all year. I think.
Yeah.
Don't you? A number of good teams and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's been true all year.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Fun as always, man. We got to get out of here.
All right, Ronnie.
Okay, we'll be back in a couple of weeks to wrap up the Super Bowl and see how that thing goes.